Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Josh, and together we are covering part 27 of the Montana CDL Manual for 2016. We are at the section where it's doubles and triples. Now for me, I'm going to make the decision not to study this or Section 8 tank vehicles or Section 9, which are hazardous materials. The reason for this is because I don't believe that I need to study these sections because the company that I've been accepted at, they're not requirements. And also, going past hazardous materials is Section 10 for school buses. I don't believe that I need to know this information, so I'm making the decision to skip those because I don't believe that they are necessary for me. They may be necessary for you, and furthermore, when I get into my training, if for some reason I do need to know these sections, it's only 3 sections to study, and if I've spent the rest of my time studying the other sections, which I have like another week, if I've spent my time on that, then that should be sufficient, and then I can just study these and fill in the blanks of what I don't know. So we're moving forward to section number 11. Sorry, probably getting some weird lighting. Section number 11, which is vehicle inspection test. Now this is beyond your permit test. This is after you've gotten your permit and you're looking at getting your actual license. Now I'm going for a Class A. Per the company that I've been accepted at, that's what they want. So, from what I understand, in this, there are different sections. For example, there's a school bus only section, which I should not need that. There is a coach transit bus. I should not need that. And then there's a specific, and then there's a specific note for Class A, and then there's a basics vehicle control skills test, which we will get to that, and then there's on-road driving, and then that's basically it. And then we're going to go and look at the website that I told you about for the practice tests, and we're going to go through some questions, and then once we've gone through those questions, we're going to come back through, and hopefully I may have Maggie help me identify some things that I should use for flashcards. I may do that, or there was something else I was going to do, but I completely forget. And if you hear the grunting and snorting over there, that's not Maggie, that's Marvin, our pug. Well, that was her. Which is almost an accurate sound for a pug, babe. Impressive.
Do your homework.
I'm getting the look. You've been telling me to do my homework all day. I don't want to. Can I be done now? I've had enough. Peace? Okay. So where we are is Section 11, Vehicle Inspection Test. Page 11-1. Now again, if you look in my pants, you're going to find links to this PDF online. You're going to find a link to the practice test webpage that I told you about. You're going to find a link to the video where Ruby, a Wil-Trans instructor, takes us through the pre-trip inspection, which you will need to know how to do to take your license test, like for your test. From what I understand, she's doing one for a tractor-trailer combination motor vehicle, and it should apply to Class A. As for the other classes, I'm not sure. I'm not doing those, and it's not that I don't care, but I can't study for anything other than what I'm trying to pass, so hopefully this benefits some of you. Okay. Also, you're going to find links to Allie Knight, Ellie O'Dare, and the Crafty Trucker, because they've all been amazing, inspirational. They've given guidance, and we're grateful. So we want to always pay it forward to them. And if you're finding this video in the future, hopefully I have obtained my CDL and I am working as a truck driver. And if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out via social media. I would love to, again, pay it forward, since I've had individuals that have been so incredibly kind to me. I would love to do the same for someone else, if I can. As it is now, I'm just a rookie. So bear that in mind. If I say anything that doesn't make sense, or that it's just flat out wrong, please tell me in the comments, because I'm learning this all myself. And if I get something wrong, I want to know too. So I'm not going to be like, oh, don't correct me. I'm just learning. Okay, so this section covers internal inspection and external inspection. During the vehicle inspection, you must show that the vehicle is safe to drive. You will have to walk around the vehicle and point to or touch each item and explain to the examiner what you're checking and why. You will not have to crawl under the hood or under the vehicle. That's good. Ruby says that a lot of the examiners let you use a pointer, so that's really good because it's helpful. Okay, 11.1, all vehicles. Study the following vehicle parts for the type of vehicle you will be using during the CDL skills test. You should be able to identify each part and tell the examiner what you're looking for or inspecting. 11.11.1, engine compartment with the engine off. You're going to check for leaks and hoses. Look for puddles on the ground. Look for dripping fluids on the underside of engine and transmission. And then you're going to inspect the hoses for conditions and leaks. You're going to check the oil level. Indicate where the dipstick is located. See that the oil level is within safe operating range. The level must be above refill mark. Coolant level. Inspect the reservoir sight glass, or if the engine is not hot, remove the radiator cap and check for visible coolant level. Keep in mind, if you open the radiator cap and you squeeze a radiator hose, it's going to come shooting up. So don't do that, because then, number one, it might make your level too low, and number two, it might get on you, and number three, it might leak on the floor, on the ground, and animals can lick that up and get sick. Okay, power steering fluid. Indicate where the power steering fluid dipstick is located. Check for adequate power steering fluid level. The level must be above the refill mark. Engine compartment belts. Check the following belts for snugness. Now, when you're in training, don't reef on the belts because that's wear and tear. So what you're going to do is you're going to kind of be gentle with them, but you want up to 3/4 of an inch play at the center of the belt. Be gentle, especially like on your own truck, even after training. You don't want to wear your belt faster than it needs to be worn. You're going to look for cracks or frays in the belt as well. You're going to check the power steering belt, the water pump belt, the alternator belt, the air compressor belt. Note, if any of the components listed above are not belt driven, you must tell the examiner which component or components are not belt driven. Make sure those components are operating properly, are not damaged or leaking, and are mounted securely. Safe start. You're going to depress your clutch. You're going to place your gear shift lever in neutral or park for automatic transmissions. And you're going to start your engine and then release the clutch slowly. So this is different from, for me, how I learned to drive a manual car or a stick shift car. Because the way that I was taught, you always put it in, it's in first gear, and your parking brake's on, and you put your foot on the clutch, you start it, and then you shift into neutral and do the neutral wobble to make sure that it's actually in neutral before you let your foot off the clutch. But with this one, you're going to depress the clutch, place the gear shift lever in neutral or park for automatic transmissions, and then start the engine and then release the clutch slowly. Now, one of the individuals that is amazingly kind enough to give me guidance when I have questions, she told me that if you actually did it the way you do a manual car, you could cause damage to the transmission. You could also cause damage to the vehicle if you forgot and the brake came off or something. You don't want to do that. So it makes perfect sense why we do it this way. Section 11.1.2, cab check, engine start. You're going to check your oil pressure gauge. Make sure that your oil pressure gauge is working. Check that the pressure gauge shows increasing or normal oil pressure, or that the warning light goes off. If equipped, oil temperature gauge should begin a gradual rise to the normal operating range. And you're going to look at your temperature gauge. Make sure the temperature gauge is working. Temperature should begin to climb to the normal operating range, or the temperature light should be off. And you're going to check your air gauge. Make sure the air gauge is working properly. Excuse me. You're going to build your air pressure to governor cutout, which is roughly 120 to 140 psi. You're going to look at your ammeter or your voltmeter and check that the gauges show alternator and or generator is charging, or that the warning light is off. You're going to check your mirrors and your windshield. Your mirrors should be clean and adjusted properly from the inside. The windshield should be clean with no illegal stickers, no obstruction, or damage to the glass. Okay, your emergency equipment. You're going to check for your spare electrical fuses unless your truck is fitted with a circuit breaker. You're going to check for 3 red reflective triangles, 6 fusees, or 3 liquid burning flares. You're going to check for a properly charged and related fire extinguisher. It should be BC. Note, if the vehicle is not equipped with electrical fuses, you must mention this to the examiner. And I think in that instance you would say, there's no fuses in this vehicle because we have circuit breakers. So that would explain it. Wipers and washers. Check that wiper arms and blades are secure, not damaged, and operating smoothly. If equipped, windshield washers must operate correctly. Lights, reflectors, reflector tape condition, sides and rear. Test that the dash indicators work when corresponding lights are turned on. Left turn signal, right turn signal, 4-way emergency flashers, high beam headlight, anti-locking brake system, ABS indicator. Check that all external lights and reflective equipment are clean and functional. Light and reflector checks include clearance lights. This is one of the things, this seems to be an awful order of things. It doesn't make sense to do your in-cab inspection as part of your turn signals, because I don't think that's how Ruby did it. I think she had them do parts of the outside, and I want to say, what? I want to say that the lights, you did half of the truck and then the other half of the truck. Again, please watch that video before you go for your test, because it's really thorough. And she also shows you how to couple and uncouple a truck, and it's really good because then you can see the kingpin, and the it's really good. It's good. Just trust me and go watch it. Okay. Check that all external lights and reflective equipment are clean and functional. Light and reflector checks include clearance lights, red on the rear, amber elsewhere, headlights, high and low beams, tail lights, backing lights, turn signals, 4-way flashers, brake lights, red reflectors on rear and amber reflectors elsewhere. Reflector tape condition. Note, checks of brake, turn signal, and 4-way flasher functions must be done separately. Horn. Check that air horn and or electric horn work. Heater, defroster. Test that the heater and defroster work. Parking brake check. With the parking brake engaged, and the trailer brakes released on combination vehicles, check that the parking brake will hold the vehicle by gently trying to pull forward with the parking brake on. With the parking brake released and the trailer parking brake engaged for combination vehicles only, check that the trailer parking brake will hold the vehicle by gently trying to pull forward with the trailer parking brake on. Then you're going to check your hydraulic brake check. Pump the brake pedal 3 times and then hold it down for 5 seconds. The brake pedal should not move to press during the 5 seconds. If equipped with a hydraulic brake reserve backup system with the key off, depress the brake pedal and listen for the sound of the reserve system electric motor. Check that the warning buzzer or light is off. Okay, now we're looking at the air brake check. Air brake equipped vehicles only. She's like smiling at me because she knows she was making a lot of noise. Failure to perform all 3 components of the air brake check correctly will result in an automatic failure of the vehicle inspection test.
See, that's the air brake test. I don't think you have to take another written test.
I think you do. I'm scared that you do. I hope you don't. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's just one written test, but I believe that there's your written permit test, and I think there's a written test when you go for your actual license. I hope I'm wrong because I suck at tests. So I'm going to be nervous enough as it is. Air brake safety devices vary. However, this procedure is designed to see that any safety device operates correctly as air pressure drops from normal to a low air condition. For safety purposes, in areas where an incline is present, you will use wheel chocks during the air brake check. The proper procedures for inspecting the air brake system are as follows. Number 1, with the air pressure built up to governor cutout, 120 to 140 psi, shut off the engine, chock your wheels if necessary, release the parking brake for all vehicles, and the tractor protection valve combination vehicle, and fully apply the foot brake. Hold the foot brake for 1 minute and check the air gauge to see if the air pressure drops more than 3 pounds in 1 minute or more than 4 pounds in 1 minute for a combination vehicle. 3 pounds is for a single vehicle and 4 pounds is for a combination vehicle. Number 2, without restarting the engine, turn the electrical power to the on or battery charge position. Begin fanning off the air pressure by rapidly applying and releasing the foot brake. Low air warning devices, buzzer, light, or flag should activate before the air pressure drops below 60 psi or the level specified by the manufacturer. Number 3, continue to fan off the air pressure at approximately 40 psi on a tractor-trailer combination vehicle or levels specified by the manufacturer. The tractor protection valve and parking brake valve should close or pop out. On other combination vehicle types and single vehicle types, the parking brake valve should close, pop out. Service brake check. You will be required to check the application of air or hydraulic service brakes. This procedure is designed to determine that the brakes are working correctly and that the vehicle does not pull to one side or the other. Pull forward at 5 miles per hour and apply the service brake and stop. Check to see that the vehicle does not pull to either side and that it stops when the brake is applied. Your safety belt. Check that the safety belt is securely mounted, adjusts and latches properly, and is not ripped or frayed. Now we come to section 11.2, external inspection, all vehicles. 11.2.1, steering. Your steering box and your hoses. Check that the steering box is securely mounted and not leaking. Look for any missing nuts, bolts, and cotter keys. Check for power steering fluid leaks or damage to power steering hoses. Steering linkage. See that connecting links, arms, and rods from the steering box to the wheel are not worn or cracked. Check that joints and sockets are not worn or loose and that there are no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. 11.2.2 Suspension. Springs, air, torque. Look for missing, shifted, cracked, or broken leaf springs. Look for broken or distorted coil springs. If the vehicle is equipped with torsion bars, torque arms, or other types of suspension components, check that they are not damaged and are mounted securely. Air ride suspension should be checked for damage and leaks. Oh, and we're also on page 11-3, sorry. Mounts. Look for cracked or broken spring hangers, missing or damaged bushings, and broken, loose, or missing bolts, U-bolts, or other axle mounting parts. The mounts should be checked at each point where they are secured to the vehicle frame and axle or axles. Shock absorbers. See that shock absorbers are secure and that there are no leaks. Note: be prepared to perform the same suspension components inspection on every axle, power unit, and trailer if equipped. Now, in Ruby's video, she says, with your permission, inspector, I would check the second axle the same as I did the first. And I guess it's up to the inspector to see what they want. But usually, from the way that she makes it sound, there's a time constraint that they're aware of and they want to keep moving. So, yeah. 11.2.3 Brakes. Slack adjusters and push rods. Look for broken, loose, or missing parts. For manual slack adjusters, the brake push rod should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released when pulled by hand. Brake chambers. See that the brake chambers are not leaking, cracked, or dented and are mounted securely. Brake hoses and lines. Look for cracked, worn, or leaking hoses, lines, and couplings. Drum brake. Check for cracks, dents, or holes. Also check for missing or loose bolts. Check for contaminants such as debris or oil, grease. Brake linings, where visible, should not be worn dangerously thin. Your brake linings. On some brake drums, there are openings where the brake linings can be seen from outside the drum. For this type of drum, check that a visible amount of brake lining is showing. Note: be prepared to perform the same brake components inspection on every axle, power unit, and trailer if equipped. Okay, 11.2.4 Wheels, and that puts us on page 11-4. Rims. Check for damaged or bent rims. Rims cannot have welding repairs. Tires. The following items must be inspected on every tire. Your tread depth. Check for a minimum tread depth of 4/32 of an inch on steering axle tires and 2/32 on all other tires. Ruby said that one good way to remember that is for your steering axle tires it's 4, and for every other tire that would be a dual tire it's 2/32. That's just something that stuck in my mind. Tire condition. Check that tread is evenly worn and look for cuts or other damage to tread or sidewalls. Also make sure that the valve caps and stems are not missing, broken, or damaged. Tire inflation. Check for proper inflation by using a tire gauge. Note: you will not get credit if you simply kick the tires to check for proper inflation.
The fact that Dad put that in there
means enough people tried it and failed. Hub oil seals, axle seals. See that hub oil, grease seals, and axle seals are not leaking, and if the wheel has a slight glass, oil level is adequate. Lug nuts. Check that all lug nuts are present, free of cracks and distortions, and show no signs of looseness, such as rust trails or shiny threads. Make sure all bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. Spacers or bud spacing. If equipped, check that spacers are not bent, damaged, or rusted through. Spacers should be evenly centered with the dual wheels and tires evenly separated. Note: Be prepared to perform the same wheel inspection on every axle, power unit, and trailer if equipped. 11.2.5 Side of vehicle. Doors, mirrors. Check that doors are not damaged and they open and close properly from the outside. Hinges should be secure with seals intact. Check that mirrors and mirror brackets are not damaged and are mounted securely with no loose fittings. Fuel tank. Check that the tank or tanks are secure, cap or caps are tight, and that there are no leaks from the tank or tanks or lines. Drive shaft. See that the drive shaft is not bent or cracked. Couplings should be secure and free of foreign objects. Your exhaust system. Check its system for damage and signs of leaks such as rust or carbon soot. System should be connected tightly and mounted securely. Frame. Look for cracks, broken welds, holes, or other damage to the longitudinal frame members, cross members, box, and floor. 11.2.6 Rear of vehicle. Splash guards. If equipped, check that splash guards or mud flaps are not damaged and are mounted securely. Doors and ties and lifts. Check that all doors and hinges are not damaged and that they open, close, and latch properly from the outside if equipped. Ties, straps, chains, and binders must also be secure. If equipped with a cargo lift, look for leaking, damaged, or missing parts that explain how it should be checked for correct operation. Lift must be fully retracted and latched securely. 11.2.7 Tractor coupling. Air lines, electric lines. Listen for air leaks. Check that the air hoses and electrical lines are not cut, chafed, spliced, or worn. Steel braid should not show through. Make sure air and electrical lines are not tangled, pinched, or dragging against tractor parts. Catwalk steps. Check that the catwalk is solid, clear of objects, and securely bolted to tractor frame. Check that steps leading to the cab entry and catwalk, if equipped, are solid, clear of objects, and securely bolted to the tractor frame. Mounting bolts. Look for loose or missing mounting brackets, clamps, bolts, or nuts. Both the fifth wheel and the slide mounting must be solidly attached. On other types of coupling systems, i.e., ball hitch, pintle hook, etc., inspect all coupling components and mounting brackets for missing or broken parts. The hitch release lever. Check to see that the hitch release lever is in place and is secure. Locking jaws. Look into the fifth wheel gap and check that the locking jaws are fully closed around the kingpin. On other types of coupling systems, example ball hitch, pintle hook, etc., inspect the locking mechanism for missing or broken parts and make sure it's locked securely. If present, safety cables or chains must be secure and free of kinks or excessive slack. Fifth wheel skid plate. Check for proper lubrication and that fifth wheel skid plate is securely mounted to the platform and that all bolts and pins are secure and not missing. Platform, fifth wheel. Check for cracks or breaks in the platform structure which supports the fifth wheel skid plate. Release arm, fifth wheel. If equipped, make sure the release arm is in the engaged position and the safety latch is in place. Kingpin apron gap. Check that the kingpin is not bent. Make sure the visible part of the apron is not bent, cracked, or broken. Check that the trailer is lying flat on the fifth wheel skid plate. No gap. Locking pins, fifth wheel. If equipped, look for loose or missing pins in the slide mechanism of the sliding fifth wheel. If air-powered, check for leaks. Make sure locking pins are fully engaged. Check that the fifth wheel is positioned properly so that the tractor frame will clear the landing gear during turns. Sliding pintle. Check that the sliding pintle is secured with no loose or missing bolts or nuts and cotter pin is in place. Tongue or drawbar. Check that the tongue drawbar is not bent or twisted and checks for broken welds and stress cracks. Check that the tongue drawbar is not worn excessively. Tongue storage area. Check that the storage area is solid and secured to the tongue. Check that the cargo in the storage area, chains, binders, etc. are secure. This is the end of page 11-5 and the end of this video. We'll see you in the next one where we pick back up at some point. Thanks, guys. See you soon.